Hi, I'm Rick Weymouth and I am speaking from New Zealand.
Hi, I'm David Ball and I'm in the UK. We may look as if we're sitting next to each other, but we're actually on the opposite sides of the world. That's approximately 18,400 kilometers. That's almost 11,500 miles apart.
Yes, and we're 13 hours time difference apart too.
Yeah, the wonders of digital technology. And that's one of the things that we want to explore together with you. Our question today is, what is the future of the TE local church connection in the digital age?
You know, most of us will be aware of the three essential elements of TE. In a traditional TE setting, the first element, that is personal study or self-study materials, has been in the form of a printed book, a workbook. In the digital age, though, there are all sorts of possibilities as we shift from print media to online multimedia and to e-learning or perhaps m-learning.
And of course, the second element, that is group study, has suddenly moved from the physical groups to online groups using video conferencing facilities and software, which allow people to continue to meet during the coronavirus epidemic.
Yeah, and for many of us, this opens up all sorts of possibilities for increasing the reach of TEE. We can now have class groups that are not geographically located.
Yeah, I've even heard of groups where people in Malaysia want to study with their relatives in India and the USA at the same time.
And it also means that individuals can join classes together across megacities, where transport from one side to the other can sometimes take up to 2 hours.
But there's a danger that these possibilities might come at a cost.
Yeah, and I think this could specifically be seen in the third element of TE, which is practical application. One of the key strengths of the TE movement is that it has brought theological education back into the local church. And both the second element, the group learning, and the third element, practical application, were always implicitly grounded and rooted in the local church. If I could show you graphically, this will make it clearer. We all know regular TE learning on the left-hand side. In the digital age, now on the right-hand side, course content can be delivered via computers or laptops or via mobile devices such as mobile phones. Combined with face-to-face local learning groups, we call this second option blended learning. And for the benefit of older students who prefer to read in print, any multimedia resources such as educational videos can be put on a CD-ROM so that regular students don't miss out. But a key strength of these two options is that in both cases, the TE learning is grounded and rooted in the local church.
And I think this is a key strength of TE, both educationally and theologically. Educationally, because it allowed that circle of action, reflection, action to take place in a specific context where practical application of learning can be worked out in the day-to-day life. And theologically, because the local church should be the place where discipleship, ministry and mission is located. We learn together in the context of a local church.
Yes, so good TE providers have deliberately built the connection with the local church into their educational programs, encouraging the church to own the local study group as an essential part of their ministry. There should be a three-way partnership.
Of course, that has been the ideal, but sometimes that's not always worked in practice. Rick, you've made a distinction between church-owned and church-housed TEE groups. What do you mean by this?
Yeah, even in traditional TE, we've not always taken the partnership with the local church as seriously as we should. In some places, while the group has been located in a local church, the church has not really seen it as part of its ministry. It merely provides a space for TEE groups. And that is what is meant by church housed.
So we began our discussion with the exciting developments and opportunities that the digital age bring to TEE, the renewal of learning resources, and the possible spread of our reach by groups that are not geographically located. But in separating the discussion group from a local context, potentially the link with the local church is lost. Do you think that really matters?
I think if we want to stay true to our TEE ethos and to our educational philosophy, we can't let that happen.
And of course, Increase is committed to be a church-based training movement.
Indeed. And so I would argue that an intentional commitment to remaining a church-based training methodology is in fact a fourth essential element of TEE after the first three.
I agree with that in principle, but in a digital age, what will it mean to be church-based?
Well, in that three-way partnership that we mentioned before, we need to tap intentionally into local church spheres for holistic formation of TEE learners, students. Hopefully with local churches utilising the TEE program as part of their own ministry to equip and empower the whole people of God.
So what might this mean where an online learning group is made up of people from different churches, geographical locations, and even different nations?
Well, let's say that your TEE program has 100 online students and you're getting going with that. You need to make sure that you have a local church partnership for each of those students. It probably needs you're going to have a partnerships office and an officer or more. And in the local churches of your online students, you're going to need to identify local mentors for spiritual formation and for practical ministry. And then, of course, you need to provide them with tools that will help the students and will help to evaluate their performance, their progress, and their growth.
So it probably means looking carefully at assessment to make sure that practical application is still required for credits towards TEE awards. We'll need to create assignments that require interactions and engagements with local churches and feedback to the online class group about that church engagement.
Yes, and it possibly means great variety in how we deliver our courses. We've seen the first two delivery options already, regular TEE learning and blended learning. The third option is what we could call online distance learning. All course content and group discussion takes place online. But we need to add our TEE commitment to the local church, our partnerships with the local churches of our students. And there's a fourth option possible. By adding a combo or a macro blend, what I call fully blended learning, with some courses done fully online and some courses with online content and the face-to-face local learning group. A good balance to aim for might be that 2/3 to 3/4 of all the courses a student takes would be done using option 2, blended learning. And then the remainder, between 1/4 and 1/3 of the courses, using option 3, the fully online or online distance learning mode. Students starting with option 3, of course, are encouraged to recruit new students from their local church, and then they can begin a new local learning group.
Thanks, Rick. I think that's been really helpful.
I think we both agree that TEE must retain the local church connection if we're to be true to our roots. And we must make strenuous efforts to keep partnership with the local church as an explicit, intentional part of who we are.
Yes, I agree. And in the light of our discussions, not only today, but over the last few months, I've come up with a new depiction of the 4 core elements of TE. Can I show that to you?
Yes, please.
Here we see the 3 traditional elements of TE: personal study, group learning, and practical application. And these interact with each other to create transformation: personal transformation, transformation in the church, and transformation in society. But in this diagram, we've added an additional element, that is the intentionally church-based foundation of TEE. And it's here, as all these things interact with one another, we see real transformation take place.
David, thank you. That is great. There's more to explore here, of course, but hopefully you, our viewers, have enjoyed our discussion together.
And hopefully you can begin to think through the implications of remaining a church-based training program in the digital age.